Well, in Orange County this week, the show opens in the aftermath of Tamra bringing up the FBI. Minutes earlier, Tamra stormed out, and now Eddie is saying his goodbyes and apologizing for Tamra. And before he leaves, Ryan stops him and says, hey, let's get past this, huh? And Jen says to Eddie, help me with her. Her being Tamra. After Eddie leaves, Katie comes back to the table and says, Tamra is very upset, and she told me to ask you about the FBI. And Ryan goes, gosh, that's really interesting. One of my best friends has been going through something. She must be talking about Matt. Then Emily pipes up and says, do you guys like host people in Vegas? Ryan says, Matt is one of my best friends, and I go with him to Vegas often. And Emily says, and are you guys hosting people? And Ryan responds with, I've never hosted anyone. And then he says, stumbling over every word, Matt is a professional gambler. And he also has a bookie business. He says their family is really going through some stuff right now and that they're really good friends of theirs. And then in confessional, Emily says he goes to Vegas like it's his job. His career is going to Vegas. Then it's Shannon's 60th birthday and she spends it picking out patio furniture. The girls try to make it a celebration, but Shannon isn't having it. Shannon has a bare front porch and she needs something to fill up that space. Shannon is very clear on what she wants and what she doesn't want, which is anything that spiders can hide themselves and harbor in. And quite frankly, I do not disagree. Then they pop a squat on a cute couch and Shannon dives into all the John drama. Shannon says that the sole purpose for them to give this story to the press is just to hurt her and make her look bad. And Heather didn't disagree. And then Shannon goes on to remind everyone that when John broke up with her, he released a statement to the press about that too. Weird. Shannon says that she just wants to move on with her life, and then Katie tells her and Heather about that wild dinner that went down at her house. Over at Gina's house, Emily stops by and the two of them go for a ride on what looks like a stripper pole, but it's really just a part of Gina's kid's bedroom. But it did get Emily to thinking that in another life, she could have been a stripper. The two of them start talking about the same party that Shannon, Katie, and Heather are talking about. Emily tells her that it got down and dirty. And back at the furniture store, Heather's saying, listen, not everyone needs to be friends. And then both of the conversations dive into the part that Tamra played in the whole thing and how bad they say her behavior was. Katie says that Tamra was very emotional and heightened. Meanwhile, Gina's worried that there's going to be tension at Shannon's tea party the next day. And when Emily asks why there would still be tension between her and Heather, Gina says, because I left with you from that party, because I took you out of that bad situation. Then they flash back to that fight, and then they flash back to Heather asking Katie whose side she was on. Heather says to Katie, she got aggressive with me. And Katie says, I think she just wanted you to see her. And then they cut to Emily in confessional, who says, all I really needed was for her to just be a human and to understand that this is something psychologically triggering to me because of everything I've been through. Emily goes on to say that the constant commentary on her body has been hurtful. Then we're at a men's clothing store with Emily. She's there to help a guy named Anthony pick out a suit, a guy who'd spent time in prison for a crime he didn't commit, and Emily's trying to help him assimilate back into daily life. She's working with the Innocence Project as a way to keep her attorney juices flowing and do some good for society. Then we go to Korean barbecue with Katie and her crew, and it's there that we find out that she's actually found her birth mother and plans on meeting her, which is huge and amazing, and I am so excited for her. Then we're over at Emily's. She's getting ready for Shannon's tea party, and it's there that we see the picture of Shannon that she's had framed. The one that was taken at Emily's boudoir shoot. The one that makes Shannon look like a madam. Then it's time for the tea party. All the women were asked to wear florals, but Shannon is wearing all black and referring to herself as a spinster. Emily and Gina are the first to arrive, followed by Jen, followed by Heather, who wasn't there for 2 seconds before she asked Emily if she could have a word with her. Emily says, now? And Heather says, yeah, real quick. And Emily says, no. A second after that, Katie walks in. And a second after that, Heather asks Emily, again, come on, can I just have a minute? And Emily knows that Heather isn't going to let this go. So she stands up, Heather grabs her hand, and the two of them walk away. The two of them sit down, and Emily says, listen, I need you to know that I was really excited to be in your fashion show. And then she starts to get choked up and she says, listen, I'm probably going to cry because this is really triggering for me. And then she goes on and lists all the things that happened that night that did upset her. But right after that, she looks at Heather and says, and I know you didn't do anything intentionally, but you need to understand my viewpoint and my psyche. I thought maybe you didn't see that I'd lost 40 pounds. And Heather says, oh, that's so crazy because you know that I think you look amazing. She goes, I tell you that all the time. So logically, Emily knows that Heather wasn't trying to to hurt her. But still, Heather's string of very well-intentioned events still really hit a nerve. And this is exactly why I always say that until you actually heal the wound, that wound will continue to win. And you will continue to be triggered by things that shouldn't really be triggering you. Until you heal that wound, you will continue to be the prisoner of that wound. Back at the main table, Tamra apologizes to Jen, who doesn't really receive it well, but she receives it, and the two of them agree to talk later. Heather and Emily wrap things up with Heather reminding Emily that they really are friends and telling her that if anything like this ever happens again, to please speak to her about it instead of stewing on it. The two of them return to the main table just as Shannon shows up in her black spinster outfit. Shannon passes out gifts to all the ladies, and as they're opening them and realizing that the gift inside is tea, Shannon rips off her spinster outfit to reveal a sparkly Union Jack and announces to all the women that she's taking them on a trip to jolly old London. All the women are excited, and as they're doing gifts, a beautiful bouquet of flowers arrives. Everyone's wondering who it's from. Shannon grabs the note and reads it, and then announces to the table that they're actually from Alexis Bellino. Everyone asks what the note said, and it went something like this. Dear Shannon, happy 60th birthday. I genuinely hope this olive branch can bring us a fresh start. As you begin this new decade, may God bless you with happiness and good health on your milestone. Shannon turns to the women and says, this came too late. And it is very clear that she is being coached. I know you all saw what came out in the press on Friday. Then to camera, Shannon says, shaking, issuing a press release. This lawsuit is John just trying to smear me. And Emily pipes up and says, but the question is, are you going to send a thank you note? And Shannon says, well, actually, I already did write a note. It went something like this. Hello, Alexis. This is Shannon Bedore. I'm hosting a trip to Europe with my girlfriends, and I want to make it clear that you are not invited. The women all lose their shit. They think it's super harsh and ask Shannon if she'd soften it. Shannon says, no way. And then Katie and Jen suggest that maybe they should be the ones to tell her instead. Shannon says, fine, you want to tell her, then you tell her. And so the next day, they did. They go to Alexis's house. The following day, they find her in a very good mood, and the girls are hopeful. They're not sitting down for more than a few minutes before Alexis says, hey, did you guys see those beautiful flowers I sent? They both say, oh, the flowers were beautiful. And she goes, great. So are we going to move forward? Katie quickly responds with no, and Alexis screams, why? They say it's because Shannon thinks you should have done this weeks ago, and she goes, hold on. Why? I'm extending an olive branch and I still get shit on. Then they tell her about the text and to go get her phone so she can read it. Alexis reads the text. She says, I've tried it all. I'm fucking done. What is she so hung up on? And the girls both say, the lawsuit. And she says, well, she caused it. If she didn't borrow the money, we wouldn't be here. And then she's sitting with Johnny J in confessional. And don't they both look like birds? John says, I didn't have a choice. My hands were tied. Then Alexis goes full drama, says, I'm done, opens the door, kicks the girls out. What did you think? Comment below.